Hello everyone and welcome back to IMO Reviews. Staying in that Halloween spirit, I revisited the Final Destination franchise. And because the movies are all kinda similar and I don't want to do 5 separate reviews that basically all say the same thing, I'm going to bunch them all together, talk about them collectively, and rank my favourite and my least favourite. And for good measure, I'm going to chuck in my favourite kill of the whole series as well. Also, before we get started, just in case any of you have never seen a Final Destination movie, here's the ground rules of how they work. There's a group of teenagers, they're about to go on a school trip to France or whatever. One of the children has a premonition that their journey to said location is going to go horribly wrong and the plane is going to explode on the way there. The bridge is going to collapse as they drive to said location, and upon having said premonition, that character then stops everyone else from going and the disaster happens. These characters have now cheated death and death is now coming back to get them in any way it can. Good enough breakdown for you? Let's begin. And in last place, it's Final Destination 5. Yeah, I think we all expected this one to come last. Now, it isn't the worst thing I've ever seen, that's for sure, but I felt entirely unattached to it. It feels hollow and it feels extremely cheap, except for its one set piece of the bridge collapsing, which is actually surprisingly good. The acting is extremely poor, the dialogue isn't trying at all, it feels tired from the get-go. The deaths also vary between extremely mean or kind of hilarious, but I do like some of the ideas that the movie tries and fails to execute. I thought it was interesting seeing this detective piece it all together and try and get to the bottom of it. However, he gets killed off in one of the tamest deaths in the whole series, and ultimately it makes his involvement completely redundant. I also quite like the idea of this Tom Cruise lookalike going a little bit cuckoo with the idea of expecting his death and trying to get control back and basically falling off the edge in the process. I think there's something genuinely rich there that had it have been the focus of the story, this could have been a much better part of the franchise. But as I mentioned, these ideas do fall flat on their face, and the film remains forgettable. The only real thing it feels like it has to offer is its twist ending. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. And now in 4th place, it's controversial, I know, but hear me out. Now, this movie absolutely should get credit for being the original and showing and coming up with a pretty ingenious idea. That being said, I feel like the idea is poorly executed from start to finish. Final Destination 1 is home of some of the worst dialogue in the entire series, including my personal favourite, which has been stuck in my mind ever since watching.
Alex, let's go take a shit.
And then you actually see them go and take a shit. I mean, what the hell? The storytelling is poor, the police investigation makes no sense, the main character doesn't earn anything, clues quite literally blow into his lap half the time, and when he does try to be a hero, he often makes things worse. I don't think this one has the most memorable deaths either. It is better than the 5th movie, for sure, in that regard, but ultimately it's the washing line strangling and the knife death which sort of stick in my mind the most. That and the plane crash, of course, but beyond that, yeah, I'd be left scratching my head as to recall how people actually died in this movie. And maybe this is just me, but I am also constantly distracted by the fact that it's Stan as the main character. I'm going to give Final Destination 1 a 4 out of 10. And taking the bronze medal is Final Destination 4. I actually think there are some great kills in this movie, some of the best in the franchise in fact, but the film moves at such a breakneck pace, it's like the movie can't wait to be over itself. I mean, they've killed off one of the survivors from the incident before they've even played the opening credits, and the second death isn't much longer after the opening credits. I really wish this movie would just slow down at times. I do find the 3D somewhat effective, the acting is okay, the characters are mildly memorable, certainly more so than in previous movies. However, they are mostly memorable due to the fact that they are an out-and-out stereotype. I also thought the meta-humour with the cinema exploding was kinda genius. I don't know. I know it's not a good movie, but I strangely have a soft spot for it, and I appreciate its attempts of trying something new with the 3D and the meta take on itself, but I think it's just too rushed. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. And in second place, it is Final Destination 2. Owner of arguably two of the best kills in the franchise, but sadly, despite a valiant attempt, I do find this movie pretty damn dull. It fails to make you care about the characters at any given moment, and I often find myself being pulled out of the movie with just how stupid and bizarre everything is in this one. It's just too over the top. In one road, over 7 drivers are driving exceptionally recklessly, all at once. And I'm talking about drink driving, snorting cocaine, leaving coffee pots on dashboards. It's just too much to the point that I can't believe this is actually going to happen anymore. And it's so constant. Everything in this world is broken, and extreme disasters and explosions almost seem like a daily occurrence because of how broken everything is. I never really understood why it brought back an original character, because it does absolutely nothing with them. They have zero reason to be here. The information this old character can offer is already known, so they basically are just another body to be killed. Which is annoying, because there's a cool concept there. To bring back an old character to guide them through. But this just isn't the way to execute that. And that is ultimately my issue with this movie. There's good ideas. The suicide not working until it's your turn is a standout. But none of them are explored far enough to make the film compelling. It does a lot of things better than the original, but equally it really jumps the shark on more than one occasion. I'm going to give Final Destination 2 a 5 out of 10. I kind of have them level, but with a gun to my head, I'd rather watch this one. And now, in first place, the magnum opus of Final Destinations is Final Destination 3. I appreciate the fact that this movie actually offers character arcs. And yes, the material is definitely lifted by good performance from the likes of Mary Elizabeth Winstead, because the dialogue remains appalling. But they just about manage to pull it off, and I appreciate it. I care about these two characters more than any other characters in the whole franchise. I feel like I know the most about them, and I've actively seen them grow. I even like the emo villain too. He's a dick, but you love to hate him, and that's always fun. It takes the Highway to Hell song idea from the second movie and improves it with the creepy "someone walking behind you," which is way more effective and makes the hairs on your neck stand up much better than hearing AC/DC. I also found this movie to be the most memorable to me, especially in the deaths. It was the roller coaster incident, the death in the gym, and the sunbeds that all immediately came rushing back to my memory as they were about to happen. I thought they also do a great job of earning the discovery of how this situation unfolds with the short but sweet gimmick of the camera. I personally find the accident to be quite palpable as well. I have genuinely experienced a fault on a roller coaster, and it's not fun. So maybe that does make me a little bit biased in favour of this film. But don't get me wrong, it's not without its faults. As I mentioned earlier, the dialogue really is dragging its knuckles here. And the tanning death honestly infuriates me now, because if the two girls would just calm down and look around at the situation, they would just need to move a plank of wood that's, like, right there. And problem solved. But after a while, I just kind of feel like face-palming on their behalf. But yeah, when people say Final Destination, believe it or not, it's this one that mostly comes to mind for me. And equally, it's the one I'd be most inclined to revisit and recommend. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. And that is my ranking of the Final Destination franchise. Extremely controversial, I know, but hey, it's just a matter of opinion and taste. And my favourite kills in the franchise? Well, believe it or not, All three of them come from Final Destination 2. In third place, it's the ladder death. I find this death extremely anxiety-inducing, the way the whole world is just falling down around this idiot. And I also like how convoluted it is and how it really does build from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. The only part I don't like is the fact that the ladder stops and then drops and still kills him. And if we're really going to get our pen and paper out and do the logistics here, I just fear that wouldn't go through your skull. You've stopped the momentum. If it dropped all in one, then maybe, but stopping and then dropping an additional 2 feet, I feel like at best you're probably just going to break your orbital bone. I need to stop going down these rabbit holes. It's Final Destination 2. I don't know what I'm doing, I'm sorry. My second favourite death has to be Final Destination 2's fence death. It really just comes out of nowhere. You're not expecting it. There really isn't much convoluted setup to it. It just sort of happens. And yet, nonetheless, it's a really cool and gruesome death. And of course, the greatest death ever portrayed in a Final Destination movie would be Final Destination 2, the log through the car. It has to be this one. I mean, it's literally been turned into a meme. And it is the best death because ultimately it does what these movies do best. It makes you anxious about reality. If you are actually on a road and you are behind a lorry that has big logs on it, chances are you're going to get out of the way from sitting behind that truck and just move into another lane. It's safer, and that's really damn clever. Upon watching these films, I myself have been like a health inspector. I am hyper aware of fire hazards, electrical faults, and all kinds of things, even in my own house. But nonetheless, thank you for watching this review. Please be sure to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and please do hit the comment section as well. What do you think of Final Destination? Do you like them? Do you dislike them? What's your favourite one? What's your least favourite one? What's your favourite death? What's your least favourite death? Let me know in that comment section below. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you on the next review.